Hi, hello. I am filming my September wrap-up video in my classroom today because it has been a crazy month and it is going to be an even crazier month ahead of me. I still got some reading done though, so I'd like to share that with you. This is like the only chance that I have like a quiet space to talk to you about the books that I have read. So we're gonna do that. Behind me, you will see my amazing classroom bookshelf. If you want to help support our classroom library, please go check out the links down in the description. We love to share the love of reading and amazing theater with our students, so check out the links down in my description, and also check out my other YouTube channel where I make videos for my students. Let's talk about what I read in September. This is not my normal setup, obviously, so if the sound is a little weird, I apologize. I don't have my microphone, but I really wanted to get this wrap up done so that I could just kind of give you an update on what I've read, despite having so many, what should we call it, distractions, demotivators, and just wanting to sit and play on my phone in the evenings. I still was able to get some reading done. The first book that I read in September was The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake. The Atlas Six is about a secret society that's based on the Library of Alexandria, and there's a caretaker who basically chooses 6 of the top magicians or magic users in the world to become the scholars of this secret society. And we're following the perspectives of these 6 magicians as they go through the trials and figure out how they're going to become a part of this secret society. The catch is there can only be 5 magicians, so one of them is going to be eliminated before they can be inducted into the secret society. It's a really interesting book. I did listen to this on audio, and there were multiple narrators reading the multiple perspectives, and there was one narrator that I just had a really hard time listening to. It did not vibe well with me. I really didn't like the way her voice sounded, and that's just a personal thing, honestly, but it did kind of shade my whole view of the book. I enjoyed it. I honestly was not captivated enough at the end to feel the need to finish the series. I might come back to it. I mean, it was interesting, and I definitely kept reading. I enjoyed the world, and I enjoyed like the magical elements of it. None of the characters I really felt drawn to. Absolutely none of them. None of them were that interesting to me. None of them were that likable to me, and I don't know if they're supposed to be, but I didn't feel really connected with any of the characters. So I didn't really feel the need to like root for somebody or even like hope that something turned out a certain way. I don't feel really that drawn to read the second book, The Atlas Paradox, but maybe in the future I'll give it a try, but it's way down my list. It's definitely not something that I'm gonna like jump right into next. The next book that I read, I have them with me. I brought them with me just for you, just so you could see that I have them, because I did read books off my shelf this month, and I'm incredibly proud of myself. The next book that I read I actually got in August, and that is Across the Winter Ocean by Corey Gannon. I read The Shoals over the summer, and I loved it. I was like hooked from book 1, and then my principal had the next book in the series, and she was giving it away, and I was like, oh my gosh, let me have it. I think I mentioned it in my other video, my other wrap-up video, when I talked about The Shoals, that I might be able to get a copy of the second book, and here it is. The sequel, it doesn't measure up to the first, and I think it's always very hard for a sequel to like measure up to the first book in a series, but it definitely carries the same vibe and carries the same like adventure story that's happening with the main character Malice. We're continuing to follow Malice as he searches for his daughter in this world. I love the world that Gannon has built with this. Honestly, there is such an element of like separation between different cultures, and so you really feel that with the main character going to a different country and being kind of out of place and trying to figure out how to navigate this other culture in this other place, and how he's going to find his daughter and who he's going to help him. There was a lot more witches and priestesses in this book, which is definitely bonus points, and I loved that. I feel like there wasn't enough magic in it. I feel like this time for the next book, I want there to be more magic. I want there to be more like supernatural, because there's like a tad of it in the first one, and then there's like a tad of it in this one. Probably a little bit more of a tad, but I really want that. I really want to see the magic build in this series. We are following Malice, who is like a seafarer, military guy, and like, so there is a lot of gore. There was probably a lot more gore in this book than there was in the first one, which caught me off guard at one point. Like, I was just reading, and there was this part where he like slices somebody's legs off, and it's like, I was like, oh, that's really gory. It was just not what I was expecting. No trigger warnings against it, I guess, but like, it caught me off guard because I was kind of not expecting that much gore in this book, but there was some gore involved in this. But it was good. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm really excited for the next book in the series because I do think he is continuing it, and I hope it's coming out soon because I don't know how much longer I can wait. I'm so bad about remembering things in series, right? Like, if I wait too long to read the next book in the series, I've completely forgotten what's happened. Too much time has passed. So I'm really hoping that the next book comes out soon. The next thing that I read was not a book, it was a short story. I did a whole little short story recommendations video, going through short stories that had been recommended to me, and one that a student had recommended to me, which I hadn't read yet, was I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison, I believe. And a student recommended it to me like 4 years ago, and I had yet to read it. I had a PDF of it in my drive, so I was like, okay, well, I'll check this out. This story is so weird. The story is so strange and weird. It's set in a future, a dystopian future, where some kind of computer AI has taken over the world and captured human beings inside its like body, inside its like machine computer body, and it's keeping the humans alive perpetually to like make them suffer. And it is really weird and really kind of gross, and there's a very nice layer of misogyny on top of it. Potentially racism, I don't know. I'm almost hesitant to reread the short story because of how uncomfortable the misogyny and like drop of racism that I felt while reading it. I was not a fan of that, but I also don't know if that's like supposed to be a commentary on what he's saying. It's definitely not a story I could ever read with students, but I do think it's a story that is worth discussing at the very least, to kind of break apart these elements of, there's definitely misogyny, but also like the weird kind of racist thing that happens at the end. I don't know. If you've read the story and you have thoughts on it, please leave a comment down below, because I feel like I need to talk about this with somebody, and I don't know who else has read it. And it's weird. It's weird and gross, and also misogynistic and racist. So if my perspective is all wrong here, please let me know out in the comments. Let's have a conversation. I need to talk about it. The next book that I finished, The End and Other Beginnings by Veronica Roth. This one was for another project video that I've been working on, and I talked a lot more about this book in that video. So keep a lookout for that video and my review of this book. This is a collection of short stories from Veronica Roth, who wrote the Divergent series and also Carve the Mark, which I have not read. The theme is all about loss and basically what happens after you lose someone close to you, whether they are, you know, important in your life or whether they are a like negative force in your life. And I really loved that. I loved that whole theme in this short story collection of like the idea of losing someone, especially from a young person's perspective, and how that affects you and how you overcome that loss. I would say definitely a very positive read. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Again, if you want to know my full thoughts on this book, check out my video where I talk about this book. The last book I finished this month was Ninth House. I got this recently. I think I got it in September. So, but it counts because it was on my shelf. Also, I'm addicted to this book. I was, again, listening to the audio and going back to the print version with this book. I did not feel like a fan of Leigh Bardugo after Shadow and Bone, but I am a fan after Ninth House. I want to read Hellbent so bad. I love the vibe of this book. It's definitely, It's supposed to be fantasy. There's a blurb from Stephen King at the top, the best fantasy novel I've read in years. It is fantasy. It's about the secret societies in Yale and how there's this one house that is basically the police for the other secret societies. We're following a girl named Alex who can see ghosts, which is a pretty special power in this world, and also like kind of a curse, which is so fascinating. The way that she writes it is like just such a cool way to write that kind of thing. Wow, it's something I've never read like that before. I love the vibes of it. I definitely think that this is more edging on the side of horror than true fantasy, because there is a lot of gore and a lot of like horrific things that happen in this book. There's definitely a horror element. So like if you're going into this thinking it's fantasy, just kind of temper that expectation, because there is some blood and gore and horror that is happening in this book, but still very good. It does kind of follow this like mystery of this girl who was found dead, and Alex is trying to uncover who murdered her and how she was murdered. So there is kind of that element of like detective murder solving, which I also really enjoyed. There's a lot going on in this book that I absolutely love. I'm so glad I have a copy of it on my shelf, and I definitely want to get Hellbent, which is the sequel, so I can read that next, because oh my god, so good. I kind of can't believe how much I liked this book. Okay, let's talk about the books that I didn't finish. I DNF'd A Fairer Daughter of Verona by Christina Dodd. This book is about Romeo and Juliet, except they survive and have kids. And their oldest daughter is the girl that we're following in this book. And her name is Rosalind. Why does Romeo name his first daughter after his ex-girlfriend? Who knows? There's a lot that I didn't particularly vibe with. I'm a huge fan of Shakespeare, if you didn't know. I love Romeo and Juliet. It's one of my favorite plays. It wasn't when I was growing up, but having taught it for several years, I've grown to just love that play. I like the concept of Romeo and Juliet surviving. I absolutely do. I love that idea of this kind of twist on the traditional tragedy that we always hear about. And there is like supposed to be an element of mystery, like someone is found dead, and so the main character is kind of trying to figure out who, because she is a suspect, so she's trying to figure out who actually killed this person. Prince Aeschylus is involved, and it does seem like there's potentially supposed to be some romance in there between those characters. I didn't read far enough. I got through 25% of the book, and honestly, there just wasn't enough for me to like care. And there were some cute little Shakespeare references, very cute little Shakespeare references, but none of that was enough to keep me going in this book. And honestly, the author stuck so true to the time period that I was going back and forth between loving the main character and hating the main character because of this misogynistic background. I mean, they're in what, 17th, 16th century Italy, you know, like she's being married off, and I don't know, it just was not enough for me. It was just not enough for me to like really care on this twist on Romeo and Juliet. I really did want to be into this, but I got to a point where I just was like, I'm not as into this as I thought I was going to be, and I had to DNF it. I feel really bad, but at the same time, it's probably a good thing that I did. I don't know. If you've read it and you thought it was really good and you think I should finish it, let me know. But otherwise, I'm gonna pass. And I think it's supposed to be a series too, so this is the first in the series, but if I hear any more hype about it, I definitely might go back to it, but I honestly haven't heard any hype about it, and it didn't really seem like a winner to me. Okay, the other book that I DNF'd was Cat's Eye by Margaret Atwood. So this is another book that I read for a project, like a video project, which I talked more about in that video. So if you want to know my full, unfiltered thoughts about this book, please go check out that video. This was another, again, just feeling completely demotivated and completely uninterested in the story to continue. I also got 25% of the way through this book, and I just decided it was killing me. It was actually killing me how bored I was with this story, so I just said, there's other books. that I want to read and spend my time on. So I said no to Margaret Atwood for like the first time ever. I also watched some TV this month that I want to talk about very quickly because I'm running out of time. The first show that I'm currently watching, I haven't finished it yet because it's still coming out, is Only Murders in the Building, season 4. Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez. Absolute trifecta of comedy. I will say that this season doesn't seem to be as funny as the first couple of seasons were. I definitely have a special place in my heart for the third season because it's the musical theater season, but this season is kind of focused more on like Hollywood. We're following the trio again as they solve a murder, and this time they are being optioned for a movie in Hollywood, and so there's like this background of like Hollywood movies and stuff like that, which I love that whole kind of concept. Like each season has its own little theme. I'm really enjoying that. I will say it's weaker so far. The episodes have been a little bit weaker than the other season's episodes, but they're still hitting. I'm still really enjoying it. I'm laughing. I'm enjoying watching Selena Gomez and Martin Short and Steve Martin do their thing. And especially with new actors, they have Zach Galifianakis, Eugene Levy, and Eva Longoria, who are supposed to play their characters in the movie. And the interactions between them are honestly hilarious. They just have such great comedic timing, and they even embrace this whole idea of like aging in Hollywood and, you know, seeing yourself being portrayed as a character through a movie. It's hilarious. It's very meta and also very lovely and interesting and fun, and I love that show so much. So I'm excited to finish Only Murders in the Building this month. The other TV show that I'm currently re-watching is Umbrella Academy. I have not watched the entire third season, and the fourth season came out, I think, last month or the month before, and so I've been trying to like re-watch and catch up on the Umbrella Academy. I really loved the first 2 seasons. I thought the first season was really strong. I was so into it, and the second season was again really interesting to me, the way that they incorporated all of like the time travel elements and all that kind of stuff. The third season is kind of starting to drop off a little bit for me. I remember just watching it last night and honestly thinking like, I don't know what's going on in this series. Like, I know what's going on, but the characters have changed so much from season 2 to season 3. And the dialogue seems a little surface level. Like a lot of the conflicts and problems in season 3 are just like miscommunication issues and like the characters just like not talking to each other, which was a big part of the first 2 seasons, but I feel like the conflicts made sense. And in this season, it doesn't seem like the conflicts make sense at all. Season 3 feels like just kind of slapped together. It does not feel very cohesive. It doesn't even feel like it's following the storyline from the beginning of the series. So I'm gonna finish it and I'm gonna watch the new season just because I am interested to see what they do, or I'm just kind of trying to see if this season is like a fluke, if it is gonna come together, if all of this bad writing and dialogue is gonna make sense at the end, but I'm waiting to see. So yeah, those are the 2 TV shows I'm watching currently and trying to get into, or trying to finish before the end of October. Also, I am currently reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I am switching back and forth between the audio and this, and I actually really love it. I'm really enjoying the vibe of this book. We're following Addie LaRue, who is a woman from 16th, 17th century France, and she makes a deal with a god, a dark god, who basically grants her immortality, except for the fact that everyone that she encounters, including her own family and people she's known for years, have completely forgotten who she is. Anyone that she meets forgets who she is after she leaves their sight. So she can't tell them their real name. She can't tell them really where she's from. She is basically cursed in this way. And so we're following her through her life, and it's kind of going back between her past and what happened to lead up to her current present, which is modern day. And we're switching back and forth between those 2 timelines. I just got to the part where there is like a little like twist, and I did see it coming. absolutely the setup was very obvious, but I'm glad that I knew what it was, because I was like expecting it, and also I'm like looking forward to where the story's gonna go now from here. So I'm about a third of the way through and really enjoying it, really enjoying the audio as well. I think it's honestly gonna be a good one because I've heard some mixed reviews about this, but I'm really liking it so far, so hopefully it stays up that way when I finish it. I will keep you updated when I get to the end. That's pretty much it. That's all of my September wrap up. Thank you so much for hanging out with me before school starts at my classroom library. And again, if you want to help support my classroom, check out the links down in the description. Also, please comment down below. Tell me what you think about any of these books. I hope you have a fabulous day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.